Hello. With a few hectically challenged months behind me and some more frenzied months coming up, I thought that I would take the recent bank holiday weekend to relax and recharge just a little bit. And what better way to take a break from my YouTube channel dedicated to Warhammer than by watching a YouTube channel dedicated to Warhammer? Well, not a YouTube channel exactly. I took the chance to get through some of my backlog of Warhammer Plus content. And whilst there's some of it that I enjoyed, it also got me thinking about what could be done with the platform. I'm Jordan, this is Jordan Sorcery, and today I'm sharing my vision for Warhammer Plus. Okay, let's just start with a couple of quick notes. This is not me saying that I know better than anybody else. I'm not trying to have a go at anybody involved in Warhammer Plus or slate it in any way. I think that there's some really cool stuff on it. I think that there's clearly a lot of hard work that's gone into it, and there's no doubt loads of restrictions and limitations that affect what they can actually do with the platform. So I don't know about any of that. So I have the luxury of just going off with a flight of fancy. If I could do anything with that platform, what would I do if I were in charge? That's what this video is about. It's not to have a go. It's not to critique or slate. It is merely, I think there's a cool opportunity here. So how would I explore it? I'll also add, just before getting into the content side of things, that I think that the exclusive mini options are really, really great, and I would love to see those continue. And I also think that the Vault is an incredible resource that, whilst it could do with perhaps a slightly more user-friendly UI, and definitely is deserving of more regular and broader content updates, I do think is a fantastic part of the offering. So those I would absolutely keep. But let's talk about content. What would I put on Warhammer TV and Warhammer Plus if I were in charge? So this is probably no surprise coming from me, and I'm definitely not trying to put myself out of a job, but I'm really surprised that Games Workshop haven't indulged in a little bit more of exploration and, I don't know, just consideration of their own history. There is a real amazing opportunity to explore the actual origins of a lot of their games with a resource that nobody else has access to. And I'm not just talking about budgets here, I'm talking about the archives and the people. Now, whether you want to just consider that from a sort of historical perspective, look back at classic games, Mordheim, Inquisitor, old editions of Warhammer and 40k, Blood Bowl, all of those great games, you could actually do documentaries like I do here on the channel, but you would be able to draw on all of those archives of classic art and the best versions of that art, the highest resolution. If you've still got originals, you could retake photographs and digitize all of that stuff. Concept art, miniature archives, and all of the terrain and anything else that was built and has been kept hold of this whole time. Now, I know that there is not an enormous archive. They didn't keep everything for the past 40 years, but I'm guessing that there's probably more in the GW archives than are in most independent content creators' collections, or that most independent content creators have access to. So that kind of stuff would be amazing. There is an archivist working at Games Workshop. Perhaps they could do some talks and some documentaries, provide commentary on the creation of these games, and show us some of that archive material. I think that would be really, really cool. And maybe even a tour of the archives, if such a thing is possible. I would even go as far as tours of the factory and the various design studios, all of that kind of stuff, behind the scenes content that just tells us a bit more about how these games that we love get made. And to that point, even if we assume that there isn't that large archive of classic material, we do know that stuff is being created now and is being released now. And there must be, I would assume, access to the current concept art and the current development art and sculptures and various miniatures, as well as the actual teams who are responsible for the creation of new games. So if we were to take something like Age of Sigmar 4th edition, could we see a bit of a development documentary? How has this 4th edition been put together? What decisions have been made? Why has this been changed or that been removed? I know there's always going to be a challenge around managing the sort of showing people how the Sigmar sausage gets made. You don't want to reveal too much, or you don't want to disappoint people or get people overexcited about stuff that's a long way out. Whatever it might be, you need to control the message, absolutely. But there's definitely an opportunity, I would say, to explore some of that development history on the current releases. How have these things been put together in this way, and why, and what else is there that's part of the mix? And you've also got those people who have worked on that stuff right now. We used to see this on the YouTube channel, where you'd have little development diaries and stuff like that. More of that, I think, would be a really fantastic exclusive offering from Warhammer Plus. Along a similar line of thought, there is the potential to do artists' retrospectives. What if you took some of that classic art from classic GW artists and created a bit of a gallery show? Again, get commentary from archivists, get commentary from the artists, and get commentary from the folk who worked with them. How were ideas created and art conceived that supported the development of individual games and releases? That sort of stuff, it's maybe a bit niche, but it's also something no one else can do, at least not in quite the same way you can do as the owner of all of that IP and the person and the people responsible for creating it. So I think that that is something that would be amazing to see. Another fantastic resource that nobody else has is the exhibit, the museum at Warhammer World. This is an enormous, amazing attraction that I just cannot resist going through every single time I visit the actual headquarters of Games Workshop. You get to see all of these amazing dioramas, incredible heavy metal painted miniatures, just awesome. Some of the archive stuff is on show, but not a lot. It tends to be more focused on the current range. Regardless of that, the sort of focus on the actual exhibit itself, tours and video walkthroughs, all of that kind of stuff, I think would be pretty cool. But you could spotlight individual dioramas and spend more time with the proper lighting, the proper videography, just showing people and talking about these amazing pieces of art that have been created that feature so much awesome work. You're never going to replicate seeing them in the flesh, as it were, but you can definitely bring them to life through that visual medium, and you can provide little insights into how they were made and who made them and what they were made for, as well as focusing in on some of those hidden details that most people probably don't ever see. So I would love to see that kind of thing too. And of course, there is one other piece of non-fiction programming currently on Warhammer Plus that is actually awesome already, and that is Battle Report, which I don't think I would really change at all. I think Nick and Simon do awesome work, create really exciting games and stories, and it's really well shot and edited. So fantastic work from everybody involved with that. The only minor tweak I would make is a broader rotation of games covered. I think it would be fantastic to see some of the classics, even out of print games. That would be really, really cool. And again, something that you don't often see from any content creator. And it's something that you can bring a unique perspective to. Obviously, you want to focus more on current releases because it's all part of a kind of marketing push. So that makes a lot of sense. But here and there, pulling out some of those classics or just doing unusual scenarios and classic recreations of White Dwarf scenarios, all of that kind of stuff could be really, really cool as well. You may remember that a number of years ago, there used to be a podcast series on YouTube on the official Warhammer channel called Voxcast that was presented by Wade Price. That was an amazing series of interviews with personnel from Games Workshop. You got lots of behind-the-scenes snippets and exploration of how different processes were carried out, the development of different games, kind of the sort of thing I'm talking about already, but in a more sort of an interview format. But because these are people who work together, there's a very sort of jovial, collegial tone. It's really nice and fun to listen to. I remember there's one episode where John Blanche, who is clearly not as comfortable having a chat, spends most of the interview just illustrating some amazing, amazing pictures. That sort of thing is really cool. And again, a unique resource that's not available to everybody else. So you could spend time recreating that, do more of that Voxcast podcasting stuff. It doesn't even have to be visual. You could just do it as audio only. That way, you've got a lot of different access routes. You can share it more widely, and audio-only content could be a big additional plus to your Warhammer Plus offering. I joked on social media the other day that you could recreate the Radio 4 soap opera The Archers as The Fletchers, a set in Warhammer Fantasy's world drama about just a slice of life, a village where farmers are just trying to make their way, do their best. But what if young Bartholomew wants to go off and join the militia or become a greatsword and fight chaos to defend Kislev? How would his family react to that? What if Aldous the bread maker has gone lost in the Drakwold forest? What if the local retired wizard has become lonely in his dotage and there's just a bit of a story about dealing with these different personal issues in the world of Warhammer? I think it could be really, really interesting. Just something very different to explore the IP in a unique way. And you could do equivalent shows for 40k. What would the crew of an Imperial battlecruiser get up to between battles? What would the corner, an unremarkable street in Hammerhall, what would that be like to just spend some time with the characters who live in these universes that we love, who are not fighting battles all the time? They're just experiencing the worlds that make these games so great. I think that that could be really, really interesting. And if you do that, whether it's 10-minute episodes on a regular basis or it's something larger, it gets you around that vexing challenge of creating visuals. Presumably, this is one of the things that's caused the problems and delays around getting the animations that were originally advertised for Warhammer Plus at the very beginning, getting all of those released in a timely fashion. It's got to be tough. And part of that is because the animation, the actual visuals, are surely the most expensive and time-consuming part of the process. Whereas creating audio dramas and audio stories that we can imagine in our minds, we can listen along to whilst we paint or play, that sort of thing, it does get you around that really challenging part of the process, whilst still creating new stories and new ways to engage with the worlds of Warhammer. Which brings me to my final category, of course, entertainment content, pure entertainment. So I look around at the D&D content creator economy, as it were, and you see a lot of broad, different types of content. Quiz shows, talk shows, lots of different ways of engaging, advice and gameplay stuff. You see a lot of that for Warhammer, of course, as well, but there's a very dominant focus on painting and modelling and some of the aspirational stuff, as well as the battle reports, which can all be absolutely amazing. But there is, I think, another opportunity here that Games Workshop once again have a unique resource around, and that is people in those entertaining situations, just tackling things in a slightly different way that are not quite as focused on the games themselves. Imagine a talk show featuring iconic personalities like Ali Morrison, Jez Goodwin, Phil Kelly, Wade Price, all of these people who have got an enormous amount of experience with the hobby and at Games Workshop, but talking in a less formal environment, really just having a discussion, getting some banter, some friendly chat about their experiences, their hobbies, what armies are they collecting, what are they painting right now, what games are they playing, the scenarios they're interested in, the terrain that they've built. All of that kind of stuff just would give people an opportunity to see a different side of the hobby from within it. And I think that that could be really super interesting. How do people engage with the hobby who work at Games Workshop, and just sharing and inspiring I think that that would be a really awesome piece of regular content. Not quite battle reports, but again, what if you took some of the personalities from the design studios and other parts of GWHQ, brought them together to play games like Talisman and Blackstone Fortress, Cursed City? Yes, we've seen actual plays from the team on Warhammer TV, but I mean more drawn-out campaigns, opportunities for characters to emerge and for things to grow and change and evolve. So do complete series of developed campaign stuff and just let people have fun with it. Let's see people having fun playing these games within the context of access to everything. We can go and get the original miniatures that were actually featured on the box art and in the manuals, and we can just have fun looking at them and talking about them as well as playing the game. Take some of the stabilizers off, take some of the restrictions off, and just enjoy watching some people who are really awesome playing some really awesome games. And then there are the quiz shows. Why not put together some quiz shows about the lore, about the rules, with the actual contestants being the people who worked on them? Maybe they worked on them 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, but these are actually people who were involved in the creation of these games, and then we get to quiz them on it. I think that would be really, really good fun. I think that that could be the kind of thing that people would enjoy just getting to see. And, you know, I know it's difficult to put this sort of stuff together. It's very easy for me to say, just grab these individuals and grab some studio time and all of these cameras and lighting and quiz questions. All of it takes more work than you might expect, but it could all yield amazing results. It could be really fun content that people want to watch and that gives us a different side of Games Workshop that we don't get to see anywhere else. This is not the kind of stuff that can be made by content creators. I can't do things with all of the people who work at Games Workshop today. I can't get access to the archives and take a look at the exhibits and talk about that kind of history in the same way that GW itself can. There is a massive opportunity there that probably isn't as time-consuming or as costly as new animations and big-scale dramas and adventure TV series, but which could still be really, really rewarding stuff. I guess my summary to this train of thought is just that it is great to see these worlds animated and in motion, things that we've just imagined for 40 years on the tabletop that have inspired us to think about, okay, what would an orc look like when it was really fighting against a space marine? We've now been able to see that stuff. They've been able to put together stories and animate them, and some of those are really, really good. But because they are complex and hard to make, there's also been a few less good examples in the mix, and things have taken longer or been more expensive, or, you know, there have been other flaws within it. So why not, instead of focusing just on that aspect of the offering, take a look at this other side of things, the sort of non-animation, at-home, film-yourself kind of stuff, the kind of thing that you do see on content creators' channels, you see on my channel, but which takes advantage of unique and unavailable resources that only Games Workshop have in order to create stuff that people will want to see and will come to find because they can't get it anywhere else. I think that that's a hugely valuable offering, something that people would want to pay for. I certainly would, and would, you know, come and seek out. So that is why I think there is a huge opportunity with Warhammer Plus to take it in a slightly different direction if it continues and if they're looking for those options. But I am sure the many great people who are working on this stuff already have thought about everything I've suggested, and there's probably reasons some of it wouldn't work. I don't know what they are, but I have no doubt that they've been thought about. They're on a list, I would guess. Whatever those reasons might be, whatever those challenges might be, I would love to see this kind of stuff, this kind of content added to that roster of cool content that's already on there to bulk out the offering and give us more value for money and just create new ways to engage with Warhammer Plus and to continue enjoying that side of the hobby. So there you go. For what it's worth, in my ignorance, I have shared what I would do if I were in charge of Warhammer Plus. Whether that's of value to anyone, I don't know. I hope that you've enjoyed me rambling on about some of the cool stuff I would love to see. Why don't you share in the comments what you would want to prioritize if you were in charge of Warhammer Plus? And do take this as an opportunity to be positive. Let's look at what we could do to improve things rather than focusing on any kind of negativity or, calling anyone out. There's lots of people who have done hard work to try and create Warhammer Plus, and yes, there are flaws, but it's still been, I am sure, a tough, tough job. So let's focus on where we would want to take it next. What could we do with it if we were in charge and there weren't so many restrictions? That's what I'm interested in hearing from you guys. So please leave a comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you like it. And if you want to support my work, normally it's video documentaries about the history of Games Workshop and other games. You can find plenty of that on the channel. There's interviews with legendary figures from Games Workshop history as well. If you want to support all of that, you can check out my Patreon, you can join my Discord, there's links down below. For now, thank you very much for watching. I am Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery. I guess I should add, Games Workshop, if you're watching, that Martha and I are available on a consultancy basis if you want to pay for the ideas I just gave away for free. Oh, damn.